No one should ever work. Work is the source of nearly all the misery in the world. Almost all the evil we'd care to name comes from working, or from living in a world designed for work. In order to stop suffering, we have to stop working. But that doesn't mean we stop doing things. It means creating a new way of life based on play, a ludic revolution, a collective adventure in generalized joy and freely interdependent exuberance. Now, play isn't passive. Doubtless, we all need more time for sheer sloth and slack than we'd ever enjoy now, regardless of income or occupation. But once recovered from employment-induced exhaustion, nearly all of us will want to act. The ludic life is totally incompatible with existing reality, the gravity hole that sucks the vitality from the little in life that still distinguishes it from mere survival. All the old ideologies are conservative because they believe in work. Some, like Marxism and most brands of anarchism, believe in work all the more fiercely because they believe in so little else. Liberals say we should end employment discrimination. I say we should end employment. Conservatives support right-to-work laws. I support the right to be lazy. Trotskyists agitate for permanent revolution. I agitate for permanent revelry. But if all the ideologues, as they do, advocate work, they are strangely reluctant to say so. They will carry on endlessly about wages, hours, working conditions, exploitation, productivity, and profitability. They'll gladly talk about anything but work itself. Unions and management agree that we ought to sell the time of our lives in exchange for survival, although they haggle over the price. The alternative to work isn't just idleness. To be ludic is not to be quaaludic. As much as I treasure the pleasure of torpor, it's never more rewarding than when it punctuates other pleasures and pastimes. Nor am I promoting the managed, time-disciplined safety valve called leisure. Far from it. Leisure is non-work for the sake of work. Leisure is time spent recovering from work, and in the frenzied but hopeless attempt to forget about work, many people return from vacations so beat that they look forward to returning to work just so they can rest up. The main difference between work and leisure is that at work at least you get paid for your alienation and enervation. But today, people don't just work, they have jobs. One person does one productive task all the time on an or-else basis, even if the task has a quantum of intrinsic interest, as increasingly many jobs don't. The monotony of its obligatory exclusivity drains its ludic potential. A job that might engage the energies of some people for a reasonably limited time for the fun of it is just a burden on those who have to do it for 40 hours a week with no say in how it should be done for the profit of owners who contribute nothing to the project. The degradation which most workers experience on the job is the sum of assorted indignities called discipline. Discipline consists of the totality of totalitarian controls at the workplace: surveillance, rote work, imposed work tempos, production quotas, punching in and out, etc. Discipline is what the factory and the office and the store share with the prison and the school and the mental hospital. Such is work. Play is just the opposite. Play is always voluntary. What otherwise might be play is work if it's forced. This is axiomatic. To play involves an aristocratic disdain for results. The player gets something out of playing. That's why they play. The core reward is the experience of the activity itself, whatever it is. Work makes a mockery of freedom. The official line is that we all have rights and live in a democracy. Other unfortunates who aren't free like we are have to live in police states. These victims obey orders, or else, no matter how arbitrary, the authorities keep them under regular surveillance. State bureaucrats control even the smaller details of everyday life. The officials who push them around are answerable only to higher-ups, public or private. Informers report regularly to the authorities, and dissent and disobedience are punished. And all this is supposed to be a very bad thing. And so it is, although it is nothing but a description of the modern workplace. The liberals and conservatives and libertarians who lament totalitarianism are phonies and hypocrites. You find the same sort of hierarchy and discipline in an office or factory as you do in a prison or monastery. In fact, prisons and factories came in at about the same time, and their operators consciously borrowed from each other's control techniques. After all, a worker is a part-time slave. The boss says when to show up, when to leave, and what to do in the meantime. He tells you how much work to do and how fast. He's free to carry his control to humiliating extremes, regulating, if he feels like it, the clothes you wear or how often you go to the bathroom. With a few exceptions, he can fire you for any reason or no reason. He has you spied on by snitches and supervisors, and talking back is called insubordination, just as if the worker was a naughty child. For certain purposes, it's not too misleading to call our system democracy or capitalism, or better still, industrialism. But its real names are factory fascism and office oligarchy. Anyone who says these people are free is lying or stupid. You are what you do. If you do boring, stupid, monotonous work, chances are you'll end up boring, stupid, and monotonous. What I've said so far ought not to be controversial. Many workers are fed up with work, and there may be some movement towards a conscious and not just visceral rejection of work. And yet the prevalent feeling, universal among bosses and their agents, and also widespread among workers themselves, is that work is inevitable and necessary. I disagree. At present, most work is useless, or worse, and we should simply get rid of it. Entire industries, insurance and banking and real estate, for instance, consist of nothing but useless paper shuffling. Right off the bat, we can liberate tens of millions of salesmen, soldiers, managers, cops, stockbrokers, clergymen, bankers, lawyers, teachers, landlords, security guards, ad men, and everyone who works for them. On the other hand, and I think this is the crux of the matter and the revolutionary new departure, we have to take what useful work remains and transform it into a pleasing variety of game-like and craft-like pastimes, indistinguishable from other pleasurable pastimes except that they happen to yield useful end products. Then, all the artificial barriers of power and property could come down, and creation could become recreation. Now, I don't suggest most work is salvageable in this way, but then most work isn't worth trying to save, as it simply serves the unproductive purposes of commerce or social control. It is no accident that the tertiary sector, the service sector, is growing, while the secondary sector, industry, stagnates, and the primary sector, agriculture, nearly disappears. Because work is unnecessary, except to those whose power it secures, workers are being shifted from relatively useful to relatively useless occupations as a measure to assure public order. Anything is better than nothing. That's why you can't go home just because you finish early. They want your time, enough of it to make you theirs, even if they have no use for most of it. I haven't as yet even mentioned the possibility of cutting way down on the little work that remains by automating and cybernizing it. All the scientists and engineers and technicians freed from bothering with war research and planned obsolescence should have a good time devising means to eliminate fatigue and tedium and danger from activities like mining. No one can say what would result from unleashing the creative power stultified by work. Anything can happen. The tiresome debater's problem of freedom versus necessity resolves itself practically once the production of use values is coextensive to the consumption of delightful play activity. Life will become a game, or rather many games, but not as it is now a zero-sum game. An optimal sexual encounter is the paradigm of productive play. The participants potentiate each other's pleasures, nobody keeps score, and everybody wins. The more you give, the more you get. Generalized play leads to the libidinization of life. If we play our cards right, we can all get more out of life than we put into it, but only if we play for keeps. No one should ever work. Workers of the world, relax.
Hello everyone, hi, welcome. So how are you doing today? Good? Yeah? It's a wonderful day, isn't it? Robots will steal your job. Laughter, ridicule, contempt. This is how I was greeted by the establishment of economists about 4 years ago when I first started thinking about these issues. At the time, I helped start an organization called the Zeitgeist Movement, and we were thinking of ways on how to build a better society. Now, at the time, nobody took us seriously, but things have changed now. What changed? Well, very few people are laughing. 2009, Martin Ford comes out with Lights in the Tunnel, where he paints a picture of an increasingly automated economy. Lots of jobs are being replaced by machines, and very few new jobs are being created. 2011, two MIT economists, they have pretty much the same thesis. What do we do? Should we despair? How about putting taxes on technology? Or impose more regulation? Or maybe do some education reforms? Basically find any clever ways to get everyone a damn job. That's what these guys are proposing. That's what their presidential campaign is all about. And it sounds reasonable enough. After all, famously said by Voltaire, is the sentence, work saves us from three great evils: boredom, vice, and need. He said that in 1759. But is that really the case? Today, in this society, I think we might be missing a big opportunity. It was Confucius who said that if you choose a job you love, you never have to work a day in your life. Brilliant. I agree. Problem, getting a job you love, one that is fulfilling, and that allows you to follow your moral code today, I don't know about you, but it's pretty damn hard. In fact, according to the Luat Shift Index, as much as 80% of the people hate their job. 80%. That's 4 out of 5 spending most of their useful lifetime doing something they don't particularly enjoy. Now, in 2012, with this kind of technology at our fingertips, guys, but doesn't that make you a little mad? A little bit? And so we are in a kind of a work paradox, because we work long and hard hours on jobs we hate, to buy things we don't need, to impress people we don't like. Genius. And so we have to adjust to what the economy allows us to perform. And the sad reality is that most jobs, unfortunately, are neither fulfilling nor do they create any value for society. And I don't think I have to name which jobs. I think you know which ones. By the way, they're going to be automated very soon, and I suspect within our lifetime. So here is a radical idea. The goal of the future is full unemployment, so we can play. That's why we have to destroy the present politico-economic system. This is no light statement, considering it comes from legendary author and futurist Arthur C. Clarke. You see, I think we must do away with the absolutely specious notion that everybody has to earn a living. It is a fact today that 1 in 10,000 can create the technological breakthrough capable of supporting all the rest. And so the youth of today are absolutely right in recognizing this nonsense of earning a living. And so we keep inventing new jobs because of this false idea that everyone has to be employed at some kind of a drudgery or another, because according to Darwinian Malthusian theory, they must justify their right to exist. And so we have inspectors of inspectors and people making instruments for inspectors to inspect inspectors. The true business of people should be to go back to school and think about whatever they were thinking about before somebody came along and told them they had to earn a living. I know what you're thinking. These are naive words. Words of a young mind, oblivious to the intricate and complex fabric of society and the economic system. That might be true. Good thing they're not my words, though, but that of genius futurist Buckminster Fuller, interviewed in 1970 by New York Magazine. Now, okay, this is all very nice, but look, we gotta face reality, okay? Tomorrow, gotta go to work. Well, tomorrow is Sunday, but on Monday, we gotta go to work. We buy food, pay the rent, pay the bills. Look, you can't just, leave everything. So how do you solve this problem now? That's why I wrote a book to explain this. And I spent the last years traveling some 20 countries. I went to NASA. I studied at Singularity University. And I spoke with some of the greatest minds on this planet to tackle this problem. As it turns out, you need a plan. And not just any plan. You need a multi-year plan that involves lots of people. And everyone has a different plan. So it's pretty complicated and kind of short in time, and they told me to keep it simple, the TED guys. So I made a picture of two possible futures. To the left, we've got exponential technologies and limited resources. I think that's a fair assumption to make. We add the need for growth and labor for income. That's the basis of every society today. To me, in a few years, that equals to mass unemployment, runaway climate change, resource depletion, starvation, worldwide violence, and civil unrests. Not too nice. To the right, we still have exponential technologies and limited resources. We can't really change that unless we obliterate the human race or break the laws of physics. But what we can change is our attitude, our goals, and our purpose. Open source, DIY innovators, self-sustaining communities. I think this will redefine the idea of work. By letting go of the idea of infinite growth and labor for income, we can use our ingenuity. Instead of finding clever ways to get everyone a new job, maybe useless, we can use the same ingenuity to work less, have more free time, have more fulfilling lives, restore global resource balance, and generally have a more resilient system. So, you, sir, are a techno-utopian. You believe technology solves everything. That's what everyone tells me. To the contrary, I believe technology is merely a facilitator of your intention. Look back to the picture. If you subscribe to the idea that we have infinite needs that require an infinite amount of work and infinite growth to be satisfied, which, by the way, is impossible, exponential technology will help you get there exponentially faster to these awful results. Okay, but we've been living like this for thousands of years. Are we supposed to just give that up? Isn't that against human nature? Well, we had slavery for thousands of years. We gave that up. I believe we are at the dawn of a new civilization. But we can only evolve as a society if we are ready to accept that some of the assumptions that we most hold dear, we have to let go of them. Technology was never meant to increase productivity and growth so we can work longer hours anywhere, anytime, on any device. That's insanity. It was meant to make our lives better. And by the way, this isn't anything new. People have been talking about this for ages. Aristotle, 2,300 years ago, said exactly the same thing. So why hasn't this happened in 2,300 years? Well, I believe you need three conditions satisfied in order to achieve massive social change. You need the vision, the resources, and the technology to fulfill your dreams. So in the past, we had the vision and the resources, but we didn't have the technology. And now we have the resources for a little more still, and we certainly have the technology, but we've lost our way. I believe we are fighting a lost battle. We can't win against nature and its limited resources. We depend on nature. And we certainly can't win against robots and AI and their exponentially increasing intelligence. But we can win with them. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, we have many challenges ahead of us as a species, among which runaway climate change, increasing inequality, and massive unemployment. And I believe we can solve all of these challenges and more if we change our vision, our perspective, our focus, what drives our lives. And so I wrote this book, which is called Robots Will Steal Your Job, but That's Okay. And it can be more than okay, it can be marvelous. I believe every human being is an invaluable masterpiece from the moment they're born. And we, as a species, we are meant for great things, greater than we can even conceive right now with our limited brains. And compulsory work for the sake of survival is an obstacle that prevents us from achieving these goals. And so since then, I started giving speeches and talks around the world, and I co-founded a benefit corporation with other 3 extraordinary individuals from NASA and Singularity University that I hope will inspire people to do just that, to make this world a reality, to express their full cognitive and intellectual potential. And then I look back to my past, and I realize I'm 26 years old, almost 27. I'm getting old. And then I look at the future, and I see this. And I would really love to create a future that I can be proud of. To create a future where one day my kids will grow in. Thank you very much.